Well, welcome to Praxis, a podcast where we explore how to practice and embody the way of Jesus in our everyday lives. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen. Right now, we're in a short series on disability in the church, and I just want to encourage you to not tune out. Did you know that roughly 17 to 20% of the population lives with a disability? That's far more people than many of us realize. Statistically, chances are high that either you or someone close to you is part of that number. Yet, far too often, people with disabilities find themselves pushed to the margins. In a culture that tends to value people for what they can do or how much they can achieve, those with disabilities are frequently overlooked and perceived as having little to contribute. And while our society has made real progress towards greater inclusion, which we want to celebrate, we're convinced that inclusion alone is not enough, especially in the church. So in this series, we're exploring how to move beyond mere inclusion towards becoming communities of genuine belonging. And today, we're going to continue this series by having a conversation with a friend of ours, Emily Enochson. So let's do it.
Well, welcome everyone. My name is Mac.
I'm Josiah.
And we are sitting here with my friend, Emily Enochson. We often start with some banter.
Okay.
And I think this would be a good way to introduce you to our listeners. It might feel a little odd, but part of you is living in my home.
That is true.
Yes. You caught it right away.
Yeah, I did.
My wife, Josie, this was several years ago now. Emily is like a sourdough expert. And she put on a clinic for maybe 10 women to teach them how to do all things sourdough. And my wife, Josie, went to it. And
How long ago was this?
Maybe like 3 years ago.
Yeah, a handful of years ago. And she walked away with some sourdough starter. And I thought for sure she'd kill it. Like within a few weeks, she would neglect it.
She was very dedicated to keep that alive. Yeah.
And she has only gotten more dedicated. So this sourdough starter, she uses it multiple times a week. You have influenced my daily life, Emily.
That is my goal, to be the sourdough ambassador.
Yes.
To Lake Country.
My question is, and I imagine you probably go through seasons. I know Josie does, but what is your favorite thing to make right now or to consume? And then I want to push it over to you, Josiah. What sourdough item do you enjoy?
I don't make any sourdough.
Gosh. So sourdough. Okay. So our family does this thing every year called Lefse-Fest. And this past weekend was our Lefse-Fest competition. And we just added, there's usually crockpot wars, Instant Pot wars, and we just added a sourdough competition.
Oh, fun.
And so I submitted my sourdough focaccia, which that is something that I make a lot. It was so good. Yeah, it was delicious.
Can you make sourdough lefse? Because that's potatoes.
No, probably not.
Right? Okay.
I'll have to look into that. But I don't think so. No, it's like potatoes and flour and whatever. But yeah, so focaccia has been a standby for me. And then sourdough bagels. I actually fed my starter before I came here with the intention to make sourdough bagels when it's freezing cold tomorrow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that does sound good. My wife, she really wants me to get into sourdough. This is what she does. So when she has an interest,
she wants you to do it.
She puts it on you.
She wants me to do it. So she's very career oriented and very busy. So when she's like, "Oh, I wish I had time for that," she's like, "Hey, maybe you could get into sourdough." It's like, well, I don't have the interest. You clearly do. She does the same thing with our lawn. She wishes it was nicer. And she's like, hey, can you become one of those lawn dads?
Lawn dads.
She cares about it more than I do.
With the riding lawnmower and trimming it and
the New Balance and the white high socks.
She wants to dictate your hobbies, dude.
She does.
Well, she wants hobbies that, will enrich her life. But she doesn't want to take the time to do them. So she wants me to do it.
Dude, sourdough enriches everyone's life. So,
and
I could see you doing it.
Yeah. It's so fun. And if you ever need starter, I'll hook you up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy. And I think it's the thing I always teach people is incorporate it into your daily life. So whatever you're already doing, feed your starter when you feed your kids, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like eating it.
What is Josie making?
Yeah, so one of the things that I enjoy the most that she makes, first of all, we love Indian food.
Oh, naan.
Yes. So her sourdough naan is pretty awesome. And then I would say over the last 8 or 9 months, we've been doing a lot of homemade pizza with sourdough crust, and it's a game changer.
Yum.
It's so good.
Yep.
So yeah, there's several items that she does that
and it's better for you.
Yeah, totally.
Yep. Better for your gut, and I don't know. I love the sourdough.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you a more formal introduction to our listeners, Emily. You're not only a dear friend, but you're part of our community. You grew up in the area, not too far from here, and went to Madison, UW Madison. We have a lot of people, younger kids who are now at Madison who tune in, so that's fun. Where you studied human development and family studies. After a few different jobs, you ended up landing, and we're going to talk about this more today, at Zacharias Acres, which is an incredible place, only a few miles from here. And you're the director of community impact, and you've been there for several years now, since like 2012.
Yeah, like 14 years. Yeah,
that's awesome. And so I can't wait for people to hear more about that. And so you're not only a sourdough expert, but you're an incredible human, and I'm glad that you're here. Can you share, let's just start with, can you share a little bit of your story?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you grew up with an adopted sister with a disability. We're talking about disability. We're in this series on disability, and the through line really is, I don't think inclusion is enough. I think we need to create genuine spaces of belonging. So I would love to kind of just hang on to that thread or that through line as we continue to talk. But I know that this is a topic, disability is a topic that you grew up with, like inside your home.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I would say disability and individuals with special needs have been a through line throughout my childhood. Growing up, my parents weren't supposed to have kiddos, and so they started doing foster care for medically fragile kids. Then they had me, and then they had my brother Jonathan, who was born with congenital heart disease. And I grew up in the hospital, grew up around medically fragile kiddos, grew up in the ICU, grew up just in that environment. And so it's always been a part of my story. Jonathan passed away when he was 4 and I was 6. And a couple of years after that, we started doing foster care again, adopted my brother Caleb. He had a collapsed lung, had some issues as well, but now is thriving and healthy. And then fast forward, and we did foster care for, I don't know how many kiddos, but growing up, that was always a part. We had Brett, who had a trach and multiple needs. We had several other kids a part of our home and nurses in and out. So it was always a part of our daily life. And then we adopted Josie. Josie was in foster care with us when she was 4. And I remember the day when, as a family, it was really important. My parents, every time we had a foster care placement, they came to us, my brother and I, and said, hey, we're going to go meet this kiddo because this is a family decision. This is something that we are all doing together. It's not just them, it's all of us. So we went to Central Center to go meet Josie. And I remember we met her in a sensory room, which was this dark room with bright lights, and she was nowhere to be seen. And so I think it was her caseworker or nurse or somebody there. And they brought Josie in, and she couldn't even be in the same room as us because she was so isolated, neglected. She has CP, autism, epilepsy, a variety of different needs. But she had been so abused and neglected that she couldn't even be in the same room as humans. And I also remember just this feeling of, if we don't help her, if we don't love her, who will? And so we as a family, decided that we would take Josie in, and we ended up doing foster care for some of her siblings as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that the sentiment of everybody in the room? Like, if someone doesn't embrace Josie, then who will?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And my brother's younger, and he has his own story. And of course, with siblings, you always have days where you're like, okay, I don't want to be around you. And that happens with siblings with special needs as well. But yeah, there was that consensus of let's support and love this little one. And then we ended up adopting her. She was nonverbal, couldn't walk, couldn't speak. And I would say like her story is such a testimony of what love and providing a home where you do belong can change a life. Really to see that. She is now, gosh, her birthday is on Sunday, and she is turning 33, I believe. That's correct. Yeah. So 33. And she lives in a group home. She has like this girl gang that she hangs out with. And I say she has a more active social life than me. She is always like going to the zoo, going out for like a painting night. And this is a girl who, I mean, left not with a place to belong, could just be on a couch or in a chair somewhere, just rocking and stimming and not out in the world. So I think kind of to go back, part of my story has always been entwined with people with special needs. But it's also something too that I laugh because my career now and vocation, I call working at ZAs isn't just a career, it's definitely a calling. Is something that I avoided for so long because I think there was a part of me that said I'm more than just, Emily who has foster kiddos in her house with special needs. And so in college, I did, instead of going into special education, I did family stress and coping under human development, which is so different, you know?
Yeah. Totally
right?
different.
Totally different. But just to see how God has brought full circle that whole story and upbringing has just been really sweet. And I know the compassion and love that I have for each guest that comes to ZAs is because of Josie. It's because of Brett. It's because of Caleb. It's because of all of the foster kiddos and our family that have influenced me.
It's so fun to get updates on Josie because I remember this was years ago. I went to your parents' house to have dinner. It was just Josie and I. It was before we had kids.
Gosh.
And Josie was there. And, Josiah, we talked at the introduction of our last episode just about how, like, sometimes individuals with disabilities, they behave in non-ordinary ways. And it can provoke some anxiety of, like, what are they doing? What are they going to do? How do I relate to this? There's a lot of uncertainty around someone else's behavior and what does it look like to interact. And I remember feeling that with Josie because she was stimming out.
Probably making loud noises and banging her head. And for Joe's, like, that's how she communicated. Thankfully, there was an amazing teacher and speech therapist that taught her to use an iPad and to use her words. And so that has unlocked a part of her we never expected. But she still has those behaviors because that's her safe place.
Yes.
And
now, like with a son with like Griffin stims out, he bangs his head. Like his entire bed is padded so he doesn't give himself a concussion. And we're working on an iPad for him to be able to use his words, which this past week one was, I want football. I want football.
Nice.
Okay, so I will probably misquote this, but there is a book written by somebody who is nonverbal, autism, like whip smart, but they discovered she could type too with an iPad, and she wrote a book. And in there, she talks about how people are vending machines and people are like, I will go to you and you are my football person. You are my, speech. You are my whatever. For Josie, instead of I want football, it's I want to go in the hot tub. I want to go to Culver's. And that's anytime I talk with her, those are the first sentences.
Hot tub and Culver's.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, she has a great life.
Yeah.
We all like hot tubs and Culver's.
If I could be in a hot tub right now while eating Culver's,
oh, man.
It's like goals, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more. You mentioned there was a period of resistance to this sense of calling you had to work with people with disabilities.
Yep.
Before we talk more about what's happening at Zacharias Acres, I'd love to hear more about what were some of those milestone moments in your process of maybe resisting this, where you realized, no, this is more than just something that I have a big heart for.
Yeah.
This is something that God's calling me into.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, when right out of school, I worked at a children's hospital for about 3.5 years, and I loved it. I was a child life specialist. It was great. But I had kind of hit that point where I couldn't advance any further at the hospital, and I just felt like something was missing. And then ironically, I would often be called into the rooms where there would be individuals with special needs there. And I'd be like, okay, here we go again. I'm getting called in where they're having a blood draw and need somebody to support this kiddo. And there were the hindsight, I see God's thread through my whole story. But for me, I really, we all go through this, but I wanted something separate. My mom got her master's in special education, and that's just been a part of our whole family. And so I think I had this idea of like, I need to be doing something different. That's just me. And really wrestled with that. But then I had a moment too when I was, in the hospital and just wanting something more. I came back here for the weekend and kind of shared that with my parents. And then when I got back to work, my manager called me in the office and with tears in her eyes said, Emily, this was in like height of the recession of 2008. We have to cut your hours. And I know that means we're going to lose you. And for me, that was devastating because I thought, okay, what am I going to do next? And just really wrestling internally with like, is there child life? It was a very competitive field and there wasn't anything there. What's next in that? And so I ended up moving home. I was going to go get my master's in counseling and actually was here at Cross Point with my parents. And we saw this cute little ad that said Fall Fest for people with special needs. And my mom and I went there and it was Zacharias Acres. And it was literally just a farm field. And I even remember then looking at this map of what this place could be and seeing it and going, well, maybe I could be a child life specialist there or an activities director or something. And not putting the two and two together of like, okay, Emily, like that thread of, okay, could your story be a part of this and what's next? And I think really wrestling with God using all of your story, the good parts, the hard bits, for his glory has been a theme throughout my whole life. And that's taken some wrestling of who I am, who I'm created to be, but also of why, like, Lord, why did you put me in this family? You could have placed me anywhere. And I had to wrestle through that. And I think in that wrestling came definitely a reliance on the Lord that I never would have had, but also just that deeper calling and conviction that, okay, come back to the basics of like, what are the gifts? What are the skills? How is God working in your life? And just do that next right thing. And for me, it was coming back home after my hours were cut and serving my sister. She was in a really hard season at the time. And I remember praying like, okay, Lord, like if this is the reason you're having me do this, if it's just for one person, that's enough. And just that honest prayer of saying, okay, like if my life is just to serve her right now, that's enough.
So it seems like the tug of war was sort of between a family you didn't choose. I mean, we don't get to choose the family we, are part of. And this huge focus of caring for people who are experiencing a whole range of disabilities and how that shaped you as a person.
Yeah.
And then going, hey, I want to choose my own path.
Yeah,
like I want to be on my own, and then realizing, like, and
there's a connection.
My own path might be continuous with this, not incongruent with it.
Yeah.
What was it like to have that coin land in the slot? Did it bring peace? Like,
oh gosh, I would say, and I think any of my coworkers or people who've known me for a while would agree with this, but even for the past few years, or the first few years, I wrestled with that calling. And because I think so often we think God's call is going to be very clear and direct, and he's going to say, here, this is exactly what I want you to do. And really, it's just those little moments. And so
that you have to like step out on faith.
Yes, exactly. Step out and say like, okay, I will light the path. He's not shining a huge beam of light, but it's just those little lights that he just reveals to you. And so to have that, but then in the wrestling, I feel like that's when the peace comes.
Yeah.
I had a season, maybe it was 10 years ago now, where I had been just volunteering, doing part-time work with CAs, and then wrestling again with, okay, Lord, is this what you're calling me to? Do I really want to go back and get my master's? Do I want to do something else? But just having that peace through obedience and through that reflection of saying, okay, like, where have you been at work in my life? What are you doing now? And what brings you joy? I mean, I love my job. I get to do so many beautiful things. I took a ranger ride yesterday with, 6 of our guests, and we were making crazy sounds, and that's glorifying the Lord. Like, that's such a joy. But I think it's being honest in the hard times that really brings that peace.
Yeah. I love what you're narrating, that like wrestling deeply with how the Lord is leading.
Yep.
Often doesn't lead to like a crystal clear moment. Sometimes, and we see this in the scripture, there's hesitancy or fear around what God's inviting us to do. But as we take steps of obedience and faithfulness, there is a peace and a joy on the other side of that. That's hard to articulate. I mean, I wrestled for years about being a pastor. My association with being a pastor was like pleated khaki pants and sweater vests. I did not want to do that at all.
Yeah.
Okay, you are wearing a sweater and khaki pants.
Khaki pants.
Right.
For those who are listening.
And here I am.
Full circle.
Full circle. I'm that guy now. It's the worst. And so I write laments every day. Like, God, this is what you called me to.
You're owning it. That's funny.
I love Zacharias Acres. I've been there personally several times for different fundraisers and events and things like that. Both of my parents serve at Zacharias Acres. And so I feel like a connection to that place that's really deep. Griffin isn't involved there quite yet. Maybe at some point in the future we're hopeful. But just tell us a little bit about Zacharias Acres, the mission, the focus, what you all do. I'd love our listeners to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Zacharias Acres is a nonprofit in Oconomowoc, just a couple miles down the road from here. And our mission is to connect individuals, children with special needs, and their families to the miracles of nature so they know their creator. We have access to over 175 acres in Lakes Country. It's beautiful. There's ponds, wildflowers, prairie grasses. We have an accessible tree house, a greenhouse, over 8,500 square feet of raised garden beds. As one of our teachers shared a couple weeks ago, it's a sanctuary. It's a really special, set-apart place for individuals with special needs and their families, and you can feel that. We have this beautiful third of a mile winding driveway where there's a cross at the front of it, and just that pause of slowing down and noticing God's creation. You can feel his presence there.
And there's speed bumps, so you have to slow down.
You do have to slow down. It's intentional.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have over 175 acres we have access to, and we serve individuals with special needs, whether that be school field trips, public schools coming out and going for hay wagon ride, catching fish, doing nature-based crafts, having a s'more around the bonfire. We have a program called Seed to Sail that partners with 9 different schools, and the students come out with special needs to harvest, grow, plant, package up fresh produce for our farm store. And then we have free family events. So a family with a kiddo with special needs can sign up and they can get a chance to come out and enjoy God's creation. But truly at the heart of every single thing we do is community and belonging. I think when we first started is back in 2011, we kind of thought 4 times a year we'll have a free family event and that'll be enough.
Yeah.
And here we are serving, we served 18,000 individuals last year, which is crazy. Yeah, it's crazy to me. That's just been God's greatest gift.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we, I know Bob Showalter, who donated the land for Zacharias Acres. I remember actually, I was invited to do turkey hunting. I'd never been turkey hunting before it was there, and hearing his dream. Mm-hmm. So it's just really neat how the generosity of people is what, generosity is a huge value for our church. Mm-hmm. And when people give generously and sacrificially, it can create spaces of belonging for people.
And I think that's been a big part of ZA's story of community, belonging, but also just the generosity of people around us, whether it's businesses who say, hey, I'll donate electricity to Trent it to your treehouse so that you can have electricity in a safe place for kiddos who maybe need quiet, need a place where they don't want to be around their class of 20. A lot of places aren't set up for individuals with special needs. And so when somebody has a tough day or a meltdown, they're asked to leave. They're kicked out. And at ZA's, we want to support the teachers, the families, so that they have a place to just be themselves.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You mentioned the word belonging as one of the core things you're wanting for these people. We mentioned in the series intro that one of our goals for this is to help create our church community as a place that can move from mere inclusion to belonging. I'm curious to know how that statement might resonate with you as someone who works so closely with people with special needs. And maybe you could help define the difference between being an inclusive community and being a place where people find belonging.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like belonging resonates so much with me because part of our family story has been being kicked out or asked to leave from a lot of places. Mm-hmm. And I think inclusion can be this idea of if we just let people be a part of it, something that's already existing and just there kind of on the fringes. That's not always the full picture. But we're all created for community and for connection. And I think that's where belonging is when you're using your gifts, your skills, to be a part and an active member in something. And I think at ZA's, that's really at the heart of what we do. We want all of our guests to truly to belong, where their gifts and skills are shining in the community, whether it's somebody who loves doing graphic design. We had an intern with special needs who did graphic design last summer. And just to see that joy is really huge. But yeah.
Let's pause on this for a moment. Mm-hmm. What would you say are the markers of a community that's inclusive, but where someone may not experience belonging versus a community where there is a genuine sense of belonging?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one thing that happens often is, let me think. That's such a good question. Inclusion is such an important concept. It truly is to include. So when we were talking about this, I literally looked up inclusion versus belonging. Mm-hmm. Like, what does that look like? What's the definition? And the definition of inclusion is action or state of being included or being with a group or structure. And so I view that as an existing structure that's already there and then inviting somebody in. Whereas belonging is to be a member or part of a particular group or organization, to be rightly placed in a specific position. And I think that shift is from just being there and being present to being an active member. I think when you truly belong somewhere, whether it's a church, a workplace, an organization, you show up and people see you, people notice you, people call you out to include your gifts into that. And you're not just there to show up. I mean, at ZA's, we could invite everybody to come and just be there and go fishing and have fun, and you're included and you feel like you're a part of something. But you belong when those individuals have an idea of, hey, could we have a shore fry? Could we have a fish fry? And their ideas are valued. I think that's part of it, is being seen and recognized. That's kind of the shift of just being a part of something to truly being someone who's shaping and a deeper role, having those personal connections.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing the homework. I would say, to interact with you, Emily, I think that you can't have belonging without inclusion.
Yeah. Agreed.
So I'm not wanting
absolutely.
to poo-poo on inclusion.
Inclusion is so important.
And I again, probably one of my favorite coffee shops is Inclusion Coffee.
Yeah,
I love their mission.
We love Mackenzie and all she's doing at Inclusion.
Phenomenal person. Yeah. And I think that because they have created a space where inclusion is the priority, belonging is the result.
Yeah.
So here's the thing too, and I think inclusion is being a part of that. And I even think of Mackenzie and what she does with her team members. They're included. They're a part of it, but they also belong because they go to Brewers games and they have their Christmas parties. We do the same at ZA's where the Garden Club members come and they're included. They're a part of Garden Club every Monday, but they also are getting together on the off Mondays to go bowling, to go to somebody's house and have lunch. I think that's the shift of, yes, you can be included in an activity or a space, but belonging is when those relationships are deepened outside.
There you go. So I want to try this on.
Yeah.
Because I've been wrestling with this question of what is the difference between inclusion and belonging. And one of the things that I am trying to think through is belonging is when mutuality begins to take shape. And I kind of think through a power differential that many spaces where there's inclusion, the basic setup is one group of people is including the other. I'm creating space for you and then I'm serving you. And often the reward is I feel good about that.
Yes. Yeah.
What I'm naming is something different. Belonging happens when, as you were saying, they shape the environment. There's mutuality.
Yeah.
We're coming together and there's reciprocity. Yeah. And there's mutual knowing and connection. I know you, and you actually know me.
Yeah.
And it just seems that I imagine one of the challenges you face at Zacharias Acres is that there are a lot of people who come and volunteer, but it's almost entirely on their terms, serving this population of people. And of course, that has the natural byproduct of I feel good about that. But it has to go beyond that.
It does.
Do they know you? It's so much easier to go to someone else's space and serve them versus
inviting them in.
What your parents did, which is actually creating space in my own life, the rhythm, part of my home, part of my community, such that you're actually a fabric of my daily life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so often when people come to serve or to volunteer, they expect, okay, I'm going to bless the people around me. And show up and feel good. And that is 100% true. But also, we miss on such a gift because I believe every single guest at ZA's, they are serving us in their interactions, in the ways that they reflect their creator, in the love, the unconditional love and hugs and high fives is such a gift. And I think, even just hearing you speak, I think of a volunteer who she's been with us for, I want to say 8 or 9 years. Our property is a neighbor to Angels Grace Hospice, another amazing organization in the area. And we often will encounter people who are walking the property, grieving the loss of a loved one. And this individual, we met her walking the property. She had just lost her father. And we shared a little bit about what CAs does. And she said, well, I'd love to come out and garden. I love to garden. I'm an active gardener, but I don't know about working with individuals with special needs. And I said, well, that's kind of non-negotiable.
Yeah.
They'll be here. And she did. And it took time and vulnerability and wrestling. But now she won't come on site unless she's actively engaged with the guests and baking with them. She has taught them how to make bread. She makes jam with them. She goes out to the gardens and harvests lettuce and makes beautiful homemade dressing for salad. And so to see that shift from just including them to really coming up with recipes and creating that environment of true belonging, I think that happens with time and with being vulnerable and honest with yourself.
When you have someone who's interested in volunteering as is there a training they go through? And if so, like what are some of the primary pieces you're like teaching them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yes, I would say a light training, because I truly believe the best training is face-to-face and active, to have somebody come alongside of you and support you and to process something afterwards. So our volunteers, we do like a brief, phone call, make sure that they're a good fit, where are their skills. But then we say, okay, come alongside of us, be a part of Garden Club, come for the last half an hour, check us out, and then jump in. What do you love to do? And approaching the guests with more of a more compassionate and just open stance, I have found is so much more fruitful than coming in and saying, this is how you should interact with individuals with special needs. And I think that's a barrier for a lot of people, is where we can have our assumptions of how I should interact. And obviously interacting with Griffin or Josie or any of our other guests, it's different. And it takes just that time and presence and awareness.
Yeah. I think one of the things I've noticed and observed as people relate to Griffin, the most helpful, and I would argue the most beautiful, is when people attend to themselves while they learn to interact with Griffin.
Yeah.
I remember there's an incredible lady, her name's Sue Allen, and she was one of the paraprofessionals at Parklawn where Griffin did elementary school. And she's such a dynamite woman, so incredible. And one day I picked up Griffin, and he was in this phase of when he didn't get his way, he'd pinch or scratch. Like that's, instead of using his words, he's letting you know, I don't want to do this.
Yep.
He's gotten more creative. This year, we're getting notes home that he's getting in trouble because he's avoiding work by asking for hugs. So that's better than pinching and scratching. Yep, that's good.
It's a better strategy.
I mean, yeah, I remember that season with shows where she would hit and then, they use your words.
Yep. And so I'm picking him up, and Sue was bringing him out. And this pinching and scratching thing is kind of stressing Josie and I out, because it's like, these are people who are caring for him and you're being a turd. Just stop it, And I remember we were kind of like doing the handoff, and Griffin scratched Sue like right in front of me. And I was just like, oh, that little punk. And I looked at Sue and I said, I'm so sorry. And she goes, oh, no, don't be. This is part of him learning.
It is. Yeah.
So she's like extending to him grace. And she goes, and it makes me such a better person to learn how to be patient and kind and part of his process. And I just thought, like, wow, what a toggle. Like grace to Griffin and attending to myself, and like how these interactions are growing me as a person. And I think if people brought that basic default to interacting with individuals with disabilities, to go, there's going to be grace that's needed here. And as I interact, like, where is my comfort zone being stretched, and what is that teaching me? Where am I having to be patient or resilient or persevere or whatever it might be? And then mutuality is a result, because we learn, we're growing together, right?
Yep. Yeah, and not overlooking the gifts of that too. Like you said, noticing how you're being stretched and shaped. But also, I think working with and being surrounded by individuals with special needs, you notice how you're being changed and how the Lord is working in your heart. It can be so humbling, but also so joyful because there is that sweet spirit. Even with, you saying how Griffin now is like going in for the hugs, that just makes you laugh. And I think that's part of the Lord's grace too.
Totally.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Really cool.
I mean, you have an audience here, and there are unhelpful ways that people engage that can be even hurtful and harmful.
Yeah.
What would you say are like, don't do this? Because Josiah, you name like, hey, sometimes if I'm not as familiar with this, part of me is I'm like uncomfortable, and I don't want to mess up. So are there any things you'd say?
Yeah.
Just don't do this.
Okay. This is something that I've always struggled with is when you're interacting with a family, especially with a little one with special needs, is how we are all quick. And I've caught myself doing this to speak to the parents instead of the child. And I think that's one thing that it starts with acknowledgement of looking that kiddo in the eye. Or we have a lot of young adults that come to Zacharias Acres to speak to that young adult, even if they're nonverbal, even if you don't know where they're at, because they deserve your acknowledgement. And that's part of dignity, right? Of just acknowledging a person. And so I think that's one thing. And then also assumptions. I think that's huge, is we're quick to assume based on an outward appearance, but you don't know what are their gifts, what are their skills, what is their level. And just to enter into somebody as a fellow human, to get to know their interests, whether it's Lord of the Rings all the time, or not that we know that from experience, but to just really experience that and to find that common connection. I think that's where sometimes we want to steer people into our lives instead of just meeting them where they're at.
Totally. I mean, you even said Josie loves the hot tub and Culvers. And it's like, if you can see these individuals as they're just like us in many respects, they have their favorite this or that. What if I got to know them well enough? Like, you would learn the songs that Griffin likes. He loves music. You'd learn his favorite foods. Like,
Well, and I think there's this uncanny ability. I don't know if you've seen this with Griffin, but with Josie especially, she can read people and people who are genuine versus people who come in with maybe their own assumptions and their issues. And she's a good read at people around her because she's noticing and observing and always watching. And that reminds me too of just to just pay attention to the people around me. Yeah.
This is really good. That's really helpful. I mean, you weren't here for part of the other conversation, but, someone who has less experience working with people with disabilities, it's really helpful to hear some of these stories and some of these things. I'm wondering, you're mentioning about how your life's enriched by being around more people and in ways that maybe some of us who are not as proximate to some of these situations. I would love to hear some stories, if you can think of some, of where you saw someone come in maybe timid to want to just volunteer and like, I'm contributing to them. And where they maybe saw some of that unlocking of like, oh, now this person is enriching my life. Like, I'm here learning from them. I'm not here just teaching them to do something. Yeah, I'd love to hear if you have some stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I have so many, but I just think of like, we had somebody who 2 years ago, new to the area, she showed up. One of our fundraisers is a Christmas tree cut. So her and her husband came out to ZA's to cut a Christmas tree. And I gave her a ride and tour around the property. And she kind of said offhand, like, hey, we're looking for a place to volunteer. And I remember she showed up her first day and was nervous and asked the question of, do you have training? Like, what can I do? Like, how can I interact with individuals with special needs? And we answered her questions, but also said, just have fun, support them, be there. And now to see her light up and use her gifts and really to build She was in the kitchen with some guests the other day, and they were baking, and they totally forgot the oil out of the recipe. And instead of being like beating herself up and being like, okay, we did this wrong, just to laugh about it and the whole group to laugh about it. I just saw this marked from going from somebody who is wanting like perfection into embracing the imperfection and finding beauty in it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's a big lesson working with individuals with special needs, is just seeing the beauty in the challenges and in things that society might view as imperfections, really in God's eyes, are gifts. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like a huge, I mentioned this in the last episode, but there's a lot of theological thinking that's happening on that level, because we often treat disability as something to be fixed or healed or whatever, rather than as gifts to be embraced.
Yeah.
And I do think there's gifts and lessons in that. I admire some things about Griffin that are tied to his disability. So it's not like he has really a choice, but there are ways that I wish I was like him. Yeah. He has zero like social awareness in many respects. And with that comes like a lack of self-consciousness that like acts on what he should be. So he just shows up as himself, authentic. And I wish I had more of that. Yeah. Oftentimes we're living in a culture where, like you're saying, don't forget the oil.
Yeah.
Or that is like a knock against your competency or like, you know?
Yeah.
And
they're not going to ask me to volunteer ever again.
Right.
Forgot the oil.
Yes. And I think that like sharing regular space with folks who are disabled sort of removes some of that self-consciousness that we cling to, the image we try to manage. It just sort of like goes out the window as we can embrace our common and shared humanity.
Well, and I think one of the gifts, how our community at CAs and just community of individuals with special needs have impacted me personally, is I can show up on hard days and they notice it. And they notice it whether I try to put a face on or not, and give me a hug or a high five or say, what's wrong? What's going on? And that is humbling to have somebody who you're there to serve instead turning around and being Jesus to you. Like that is such a gift. And I think we overlook that if we just kind of shy away and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to interact on just a more surface level. It takes getting to know somebody and witnessing them, just seeing them.
I think it gets at that mutuality that we were talking about. One of my heroes is Henry Nouwen, who I've shared his story in much more depth before, but he left a hugely prestigious academic career at Ivy League institutions to be part of a community of living residentially with people who have disabilities. And so first of all, there's obviously a step out of the spotlight towards something that's more secluded and unknown. But what also struck me, and it's a huge part of his writing, is just it wasn't an environment where like he's serving them. It was an environment where they're doing life together. Yeah. Which I just think is significant.
I think that's a shift too for the belonging, is doing life together. And going through cleaning up the messes together, doing the dishes together, those everyday things is that big shift.
Totally
right.
Right now, Griffin is obsessed with doing the dishes. He doesn't help. He stands. This is what's happening. Is it's so funny because it's making my job 10 times more difficult. I'm usually the one like scrubbing the pans at home and like, you know, over the sink, and he stands on my foot. So he's always standing on my foot, and he puts his head between my arm and my body. So his head is like in my armpit, and he just stands and watches says bubbles the whole time. Bubbles. It's so cute.
He just wants the bubbles.
Oh yeah.
That's why Josie loves the hot tub.
Yep.
Well, I love it. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Well, it is Praxis time.
That's good.
Nope, wrong one.
Praxis Podcast.
There it is. Each episode, I mean, we have a lot of conversation and dialogue, but one thing that we're really committed to is we actually have to embody this and then reflect on how it goes. That's how we learn and grow. It makes zero difference if we just discuss things and then walk away and don't do anything differently. And Maybe as an Enneagram 2 with a 1 wing, Emily,
Yep.
that's your wiring. You are a classic overachiever. So
No, not at all.
I love this. So we were like, hey, let's just come up with some practices in the moment based on our conversation. And Emily came up with 3 of them. So I'm just going to turn it over to you and you walk us through these 3 practices and we'll talk about each one.
Yeah. So I think, and Josiah, I appreciate just your honesty of not having a lot of experience with individuals with special needs, because when I was thinking about this, I was thinking really the best thing that we can do and we can practice every single day with somebody with special needs or anybody else is to be present with who you are with. And so whether it's somebody with special needs you're encountering, maybe there's a young lady, going back to Culver's, who's delivering your food. Instead of just saying thank you and looking away because you're uncomfortable, to stop, to look her in the eye and say thank you. That might be the only eye contact she receives that day. And I think there's that connection starts with just being present and seeing that person, even on just that little level. It's huge.
And Jesus did this.
He did.
Josiah, you and I were spitballing about this kind of offline a couple weeks ago. But there are stories in the Gospels where someone who has a disability is like wanting Jesus's attention. And the people around Jesus, including his own disciples, are like silencing that person as if that person is a waste of time or not worthy of Jesus's attention. And Jesus stops. So think about Bartimaeus, for instance. He stops and interacts with him and then heals him. And what I think is often interesting in those stories, and this is a through line, is that oftentimes the person who is disabled has a name. They're given a name, and the other characters aren't mentioned by name. And it's a way of like, it's like a way of elevating their dignity. You know, you even see that with like the rich man, quote unquote, and Lazarus. Lazarus has a name, even though he's the poor beggar. The rich man remains anonymous. I think there's a couple things that are happening in those who are disabled being given a name in these gospel stories. One is it's elevating their dignity. This is a person with a name. Know it, you know? But then there's also this piece where they know that person's name because they likely became part of the community. The early church community. And so when you say, you know, be present, I want to say, yes, you have to see individuals with disabilities, you have to move toward them rather than silence them or ignore them. And maybe a first step is to get to know their name. And there is a group of people who come, I don't know, it's not every week, but every few weeks. They're part of a residential facility that brings individuals with disabilities to worship with us, and they often stand in the front row. And I just want to challenge our community. During community time, that front row should be packed with people getting to know them. That's like a tangible thing you can do is be present. They should never be standing there by themselves. They should be experiencing the overwhelming presence of a community that sees them.
And meets them where they're at. It's funny you mentioned them because one of them, I was at the between services, and one came up and asked me for prayer. And I was like rushing to go somewhere. And I just felt this nudge from the Lord of just stop, be present, pray with her. And her whole group home was like waiting for her. But for me to just, instead of just receive her prayer request, to stop and pray with her, I don't know what the impact was on her. But on me, it was a reminder to say, okay, this matters. Like, this matters to bring this to the Lord.
Yes. So be present. Be present. Would be the first one. Second practice. And I think we talked about this a lot, but connecting, of getting to know not just their name, but how they're wired, how somebody is wired. That's that next level of relationship, of getting to know likes, dislikes, getting to know gifts and skills. Where are they thriving? And how does somebody reflect the image of our Creator? And I think that goes deeper. That goes from just knowing somebody, knowing their name and waving and saying hi, but really knowing who they are as a person, connecting and loving them. And delighting in their idiosyncrasies.
I
remember this was several years ago, Josiah. I was visiting the student ministries like youth night on Wednesday night, and Jayla was there. And I think they had hot dogs or something. There was some like eating component. And Jayla had just hot dog buns covered with mustard. And I just remember being like, first of all, I've never seen this, but I just got curious with her. Like, why do you like that? What do you like about it? And it was so funny.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
That is really funny.
Yeah.
My sister, her thing is barbecue. Everything has barbecue sauce on it. Everything.
Yeah.
What's stirring for you as we name these first two practices, Josiah, of like be present and then focus on connection?
Yeah.
Anything bubble up for you?
Yeah, I think, well, number one, I find it very helpful that they're incremental, these practices.
Yeah, yep.
One is not something that you have to, it's just intentionality with where the spaces you're already in, moving beyond that. Yeah, I'm finding it very inspiring. I'm remembering back to, I mentioned this in the last episode, in high school, middle school and high school, we had a couple of friends, and my sister would be able to name them too. Michael and Colin. They were both wonderful people. And I do remember there were times Colin came to our church during the middle of the week, and there were times when it can be awkward.
Yeah.
And Colin was a sweet kid, but also did not understand when he was interrupting your conversation with someone else.
No social awareness.
No. But as you're willing to push through some of the awkwardness and the tension you might feel of like, oh, I don't know. Or what I hear you naming too is like, and it's helpful that even you who's working very presently with people with special needs has it as a calling, still has to, you still have to remind yourself, hey, I got to slow down enough to care about this person here.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling that tension a lot with, because Colin would come along every Wednesday night after church. We would go out to Culver's, and he would come along, and he would always want a ride, but he wouldn't really arrange it very well with his dad. So it was always kind of awkwardly like, who's going to drive him? And does his dad even know he's going? I don't know.
Yeah.
And he was also, anytime he saw the police, if we were driving down the road, if he saw the police, he would duck his head under the window because he was afraid of them.
Well, and that's the humor. Like, that's the joy of saying, like, it could be awkward or just like embrace the humor. Yeah.
Or he would always order his meal, and he often didn't have enough money, and he was counting it out. You're helping him and contributing, but also he would order. I'm just remembering this right now. He would order his ice cream and his food all at the same time, and he ate very slow.
Oh, no.
And so by the time he got done with his meal, he always liked to order a banana split. It was always his thing. But it was just soup by the end of the meal. And it was just melted ice cream and bananas.
Just what he wanted.
And chocolate down at the bottom, and it was everywhere when he was done eating. Those things were fun. I remember them very fondly.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, and I think we all have our quirks, right? And so I think that's where it's celebrating those. Yeah.
So be present, connect, and then what's a final practice?
This one I think is the most important. Keep showing up. I think it's the hardest thing to do. And, referencing being awkward or having things. I mean, this step in any relationship is the most important. And I think we talked about this a little bit, but families or individuals with special needs are often overlooked and often isolated, where they don't have a church home. They don't have a community of people, a small group, because of behaviors, because of just health challenges. And so when you're connecting with somebody, keep showing up for them on good days, hard days. Invite them, even though they have to cancel a couple of times. They keep saying no. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know if their kiddo's been up till 2 a.m. the past 6 nights in a row. You don't know if they had a 2-week-long hospital stay or are going through extra testing. But keep showing up and being there for them. And I think that's the most vital, because if you're going to truly belong somewhere, it's not just when things are going well. You need that community when it's hard too.
Yeah, and with the keep showing up, I think there's some perseverance required because the feedback you're going to get when interacting with some folks who have a disability isn't going to be instant. It's going to take some time. And there have been several moments where even yesterday, I mean, I get home and Griffin follows me around for the first few minutes and I'm asking him, how was your day? And sometimes he'll tell me, he'll talk about his day. Other times it's like, it is not registering.
Yep.
And I've noticed people who are trying to be present and connect. And if Griffin doesn't respond in a certain way,
they move on.
They give up.
Yep.
And it's like, I had my spiritual director once said, when you're praying and you're not getting anything from God, don't leave early.
Yep.
Because you could be leaving 3 minutes before you heard his voice.
Yeah.
And I often think it's something like that. Like you have to, you quit too early.
Yeah.
If you would hang in there a little bit longer, maybe even do it a little bit more frequently, you'd eventually you might get a response. You got to be patient and persevere a little bit.
And circle back to that. And I think that's something too that I remember one of the moms early on in ZA days, in my enthusiasm, I was asking all these questions to her daughter. And she said, Emily, just stop. Ask her one question and wait. And that was such wisdom because individuals with special needs process differently than you and I. And so just to pause, but it also teaches us about how we can listen to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to add one more practice that's just coming to me. And that is be courageous.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to want to punch your parishioners as a pastor, okay? But there have been a few moments where I've just wanted to like sock someone.
Yeah.
This was a handful of years ago. Our church sponsored on the Night to Shine, which is like a prom.
So fun.
It's so fun. It's like
so chaotic and
it's
so
chaotic,
wonderful.
It's crazy. It's like a prom night for individuals with disabilities of all ages.
I've never danced so hard in my life than I went to Night to Shine.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So we partnered with the Y and helped sponsor this event. And of course, we wanted many people from our church to like show up and be buddies. And our church was awesome. Like they cut it on the dance floor. They did a great job.
Fun.
But I remember the following week, I was greeting or in the foyer and someone was greeting and they asked about Night to Shine and how it went. And I said, oh, it was great and whatever. And the woman said, oh, I could never do that with those people. And just the way she said it, like, I could never be around those people. I was like, thank goodness someone else like overheard it and put their arm around me and like ushered me away because I was frustrated.
Well, and what a gift that she's missing by not inviting individuals with special needs into her life.
Right.
Yeah.
But it just highlights, like, if you're going to do this work, you've got to get past, you've got to choose courage over comfort.
Yep.
And you've got to stop worrying about like the appearance of things.
Yeah. Amen.
Of being associated with this odd behavior or whatever. Just get over it.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah, it totally is worth it.
I imagine there may be people who are listening to this episode and are like, "Oh, I didn't know about Zacharias Acres, and I'm maybe I should get involved." Like, how can people connect with you, either individually or with Zacharias Acres? What can they do?
Absolutely. Website is the best way to get a hold of us. ZachariasAcres.org. We have free events for individuals with special needs and their families. We have fundraisers, whether it's a trail run, a Christmas tree cut. We have a plant sale. Countless ways for anybody to come. We have eggs. Yes, we have a farm store that will be open this summer too. And that's a way for people to come out and have that first interaction with somebody with special needs where maybe Lauren's greeting them, opening the door and welcoming them into the farm store. And that's a great way to dip your toe into the water. And so, so website is a great resource. You can email me, Emily@ZachariasAcres.org.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Joining us today.
Fun.
This was great. And we thank all of you for listening. Next time, we're going to talk to another friend of mine who's also named Emily. She's another awesome human being, and she leads a program for individuals with special needs at Ridgewood Church in Minnesota. She also helps run a residential facility for individuals with disabilities. So we're going to connect and learn from her. Stay tuned, and we will see you next time.
Praxis is recorded and produced by Crosspoint Community Church. You can find out more about the show and our church at crosspointwi.com. If you have any questions, comments, or have any suggestions for future topics, feel free to send us an email. Also, if you enjoy the show, consider leaving a review. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Nice. Nice to change it up because the same voices.
Different
all
voices.
the time.
Yeah, for sure.